Before the video begins, let's go over the definition of wealth. According to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad and The Psychology of Money, having wealth does not mean that you own that fancy Lamborghini or that fancy big mansion on that mountain. That is being rich. And a rich person, even with a high-paying job, is very vulnerable to losing all of their liabilities. If they only ever chase that paycheck to pay for their liabilities and they never invest in assets, they are basically being kept poor. They are still in the rat race, even with like a $300,000 a year income, okay? If they're still chasing that dollar, if they're still living paycheck to paycheck, that, according to Rich Dad Poor Dad and The Psychology of Money, they are still poor. They are still in the rat race. As contrast to this, a wealthy person is one that maybe have those fancy cars or those big houses. It doesn't matter if they do have those big houses or those big fancy cars. It doesn't determine their wealth. What they do have is hidden wealth. Let me explain. As opposed to buying that car, investing into their cars, aka liabilities, buying a big fancy house with money that they barely have enough to be able to afford that big fancy house. Instead of all of this, wealthy people, they focus on building their assets columns, their investment portfolios. They increase their savings and their emergency fund every single day by paying themselves first from the money that they earn from their jobs or whatever, regardless of how much they earn, whether it is high or low, it doesn't matter. But, obviously, preferably a lot. It will speed things up, obviously. And by doing this, by keep investing their earned income into their assets, this earns them true wealth and true money. Being rich can mean that you have a high income, but being wealthy is about how much of it you keep and grow over time. You want to be wealthy, not rich, because wealthy, you keep your money. Being rich, you spend your money. Now that we have defined wealth, let's now talk about our main video topic for today. Why can't we get there with a high-paying job, you may ask? Isn't that how the world works? Isn't that how common sense works? Let's break it down today together and uncover the traps that high-paying jobs set for your financial health. The first big reason as to why you can only get rich with a high-paying job and not build your wealth is due to the fact that the more you earn, the more you spend. Now, if you've seen videos on YouTube, if you've seen other people posting about it, do you ever wonder why those people who are earning themselves a high income, a 6 figures income, and yet they still seem like they're just barely scraping by? Do you ever wonder why? They are earning such a high figure. Like, why are they still scraping by? Why are they living paycheck to paycheck like the average person, like the poor person? Well, that is because of lack of financial discipline, aka the graph on like how much they earn increased alongside with how much they spend. Those two went up together instead of one going up and one just staying the same. That's how it should be, but that is not how it is in reality. I call it lifestyle inflation. For an example, oftentimes when people get a promotion or people get like a better paying job, oftentimes they would upgrade their lifestyle. They would start to go out to more expensive restaurants. They would travel more. They would open up more subscriptions. And this is when they would spend more of their money towards luxury expenses. They would start buying more expensive houses, cars, and other luxuries that can quickly deplete their high income. Just like that. They can open up monthly payments. They can take out loans and then they'll have to pay monthly for their fancy cars or maybe their mortgage. And on top of that, they would also have maintenance for their fancy cars. And those stuff, it adds up and it takes away from their high salary. Just like that. All of which can increase their fixed expenses and as a result, keep them in the rat race. Additionally, high income earners, they feel like they have too much ego, which is something that I will go more into details later. But they would have too much ego, which as a result, they would have failure to budget. Many high incomes do not follow a strict budget. At least the one that lives paycheck to paycheck. There's always an exception where one person is like exceptionally financially disciplined. Good for that person. But I'm talking about the majority, the people that have higher spending the more that they earn. And these people, they don't have strict budgets, which allows for their spending to exceed their income over time. On top of this, tax liabilities comes into play. Oftentimes, as your salary increases, so does your tax bracket, meaning that the more tax you will have to pay, the more you earn, the more respectable your job is. Without smart tax planning, a huge chunk of that extra income will go straight to Uncle Sam instead of your savings and your investments and your sons and daughters' future college funds, which as a result of all of this, high earners oftentimes rely on their credit cards, leading to significant debt. A survey showed that 46% of higher income individuals depends more on credit card than middle and lower income groups. This survey result is insane. Like, why the hell do you need that extra credit card money when you're earning a high income? Which further emphasized the importance of financial literacy. And all of this added up together, they all create something I call the toll of paycheck to paycheck. It is stressful. It is frightening due to the fear of financial instability, the pressure of keeping up with the Joneses, or just keeping up the appearances that you have money can weigh on many people financially, and that can be very emotionally draining. All of these reasons and stresses lead to people getting more and more focused into their work, and it also leads people to work harder and harder at their jobs, and it leads to those very same people to chase that paycheck more and more, which leads me to reason number 2. The higher the salary, the more specialized the job is, which limits career options after they retire or after they get an injury or after they lost a passion or their layoffs or whatever. A professional NBA basketball player can earn a lot of money. Yes, but at the same time, they could also have a life-changing permanent injury tomorrow. You never know, which results in limited career options after they gain that injury due to their lack of experiences in any other work fields. A similar example to this would be a pilot can earn a lot. Yes, but tomorrow the airline can just kick you out of the airline because the airline can just shut down, it can go bankrupt tomorrow and that will affect you. Or the same pilot can just lose passion and then choose to move on from his work field. That's okay. But the reality for that pilot afterwards is that their only other work option might be to just work for another airline due to the fact that their experience simply aren't just that valuable in many other fields. Do you really think, for an example, let's just say that same pilot suddenly wants to become a professor later on in life. The skills that a pilot can gain through his, let's say 10 years worth of experience at his work field, can that really be translated into his new teaching work field? How valuable are his piloting skills gonna be when he's gonna be teaching kids about the history of the USA or whatever? The point is that the more specialized your profession is, the more you get paid. Yes, but that also means that the less options you have after you retire or after you get laid off from your same position. So now you might be thinking, oh, that's obvious. Obviously, I can't get another job easily in another field because of my current specialized experience in this certain high-paying field that I currently am in. And you might be saying, yeah, I know, I'm stuck in it, but at least I'm getting paid good, so I'm just gonna stay in here. Why would I ever want to change? Well, reason number 1, and Robert went over this in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. He mentioned that you are basically stuck to your current profession for the rest of your life if you choose to think that way. And you might be thinking that it's okay, you want that. And that is okay. But consider these reasons. Reason number 1, future layoffs. You can always get fired from your company, even if you're a good employee. Maybe tomorrow your company shuts down because of bankruptcy or something. You never can predict it. Or maybe another COVID hits and you can no longer go to work. Reason number 2, injuries. You can always get an injury. And if you're currently in like a physically demanding profession, a physical injury will matter a great deal and you might have to quit your job. And the third reason, I know I've said this reason before, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but you might change your passion. In the book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel goes over this. He says that only 27% of college grads goes on to have a job that is related to their degree or their major. His point is that people's mind, people's lives, people's professions will always change. He brings up how Harvard psychologist once said, at every stage in our lives, we will make decisions that will profoundly influence the lives of the people we're going to become. And then once we become those people, we're not always thrilled with the decisions we've made. Young adults can pay good money to get old tattoos removed, while their teenager selves paid good money to get those very same tattoos that they do want to remove later on in life. His point is that you are going to change at one point in your life. And in the book, Morgan Housel recommends that the trick is to accept the realities of you changing inevitably and to move on ASAP. So let's say that you're 25 now and you suddenly want to change your career. Well, that's okay. As long as you're financially and are physically and mentally able to do it, go for it. Do whatever makes you happy and whatever brings you gains in the long term. Because again, that's where wealth is made, long-term investing. So accept those changes and move on from them ASAP. Which brings me back to the topic of this video. Remember how I mentioned that high-paying jobs are usually specialized jobs, and they usually requires years of schools or experience to get those positions, by which point that you decide to change your job, to change your fields, to change your career from those highly specialized job into another profession. That change is going to be extremely hard, which is why in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert recommends for you to have many other professions, many other skills at your disposal. Let's just say that you're currently studying to become like a neurosurgeon, a very highly specialized profession. Well, you can also gain like a minor in another profession or something. Maybe learn trades, maybe learn constructing, maybe learn anything. Robert would advise for you to go out there into the world and learn and gather as many skills as possible right now. Always have a plan B, because you never know what will happen to your profession. Because if you are prepared for the reality of you changing your profession, that makes your long-term financial plan that much more valuable. And that is the point I am trying to get across. Anyways, future Bill out. Despite the limited career options you have after you retire, let's talk about the time period during when you're making a lot of money. Theoretically, let's talk about your time when you're shining in the NBA. The more you earn from those fields, it might feed into your ego, which as a result leads me to reason number 3. The more ego that you have with your money, the less saving and budgeting that you're going to commit to and actually do after you get paid. In the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, he brings up very oftenly on how many high earners fall into the trap of thinking this thought: I make enough, I don't need to worry about saving right now. This very same mindset keep them spending more and saving less. And this leads to lack of saving and lack of investments in high earners households. They might instead focus more on spending their income and maybe increasing their income instead of actually saving their income and investing their income. They're gonna instead work for the money instead of making the money work for them, which as a result, they're gonna have limited financial preparation. And without proper financial preparation and financial planning, high income individuals can find themselves living paycheck to paycheck despite their high earning, which as a result, this makes them unprepared for emergencies. And if they don't have an emergency fund, this can make them very vulnerable when unexpected financial crisis actually hits you. And the fact is that they will hit you. They will hit everybody. And that's the problem. You need to be prepared for that. All 3 of these massive reasons can prevent you from achieving true wealth and true financial freedom, despite you having a high-paying job that is secured or stable. Like I have said at the beginning of this video, earning a lot can make you rich. But true wealth and true stability can only be achieved through investing and saving. Ronald Reed understood this concept really, really well. He was a janitor for 40 plus years of his life, and he was basically earning minimum wage for all of his life. And after he had passed in 2014, I believe, his family have found out that he had $8 million total across all of his investment portfolios. His very same story proves that it's not about how much you make in the short term, but how you consistently save and invest in the long term that determines your wealth by the end of your life. That's the key to lasting financial freedom. Pay yourself first, and then you pay everybody else after. This is a great quote from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, comment down below on any more tips of building wealth that you may have. And, maybe it can help a fellow subscriber out on our channel. And remember, you can easily get rich right now, given that you have a high-paying job right now. But you also need the added skill of staying rich. And that's how you build your wealth. Without that added skill, you might just become poor eventually, or at least middle class. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to become middle class, given the fact that you're watching this video right now. And watch this video next for more tips on how to get rich and build wealth. Anyways, that's about it. Bye.